Hey gang, this episode contains spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, like all the items in my refrigerator, watch the movies first.
Twinema.
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 Cinema.
Twinema.
Cinema.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Twinema Cinema.
And it has been a pleasure making this show so far with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed Season 1, but we are back!
Twice the Twinema and twice the cinema. Wait, that would make it 4 times the cinema. So no, still just 2 movies, except, the special episodes. But the important part is, we're back! And it's 2021, and we are ready to give you that dueling movie satisfaction.
And we are starting it off with a cold one, appropriate for this winter season. We've got Mirror Mirror versus
Snow White and the Huntsman.
And I guess they both take place in winter or something like that, maybe?
Well, I mean, they star Snow White, so I would assume there's snow involved in some capacity.
Ah, yes. And I do remember something from the trailer that there's snow in that Huntsman movie. I feel like there were horses running through the snow. I think this happens. We'll wait on that.
Speaking of what can you remember, that should be pretty interesting, as this is one of those rare episodes where I have seen neither movie involved.
Ho ho ho! You know who also hasn't seen either film?
Is it Tara?
This guy!
Oh.
All I remember about these movies, honestly, is I just remember some of the trailer for Snow White and the Huntsman, and that's really about it. So I think we're going to just have to be guessing for this What Can You Remember segment.
It's like, I don't recall anything specific about the plots. I know who's in them, kind of, and I know some of the background stuff on Snow White and the Huntsman, but aside from that, I'm in the dark. I'm lost in the woods.
Maybe we can get a Chris Hemsworth to come out there and save you.
Ooh, I wouldn't say no to that.
I mean, I know he's got a big old hammer.
Wouldn't it be an axe?
I think what happened was he made this movie and he was like, you know what? Thor should have an axe. And so that's why they gave him an axe in Infinity War and in Endgame. So I think that's how this happened. He was like, I'm sick of the hammer. I need a friggin' axe.
Much easier to swing, so yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but he can still fly. I don't understand Thor's powers, but that I think is probably pretty irrelevant for this movie.
Wait, are you saying the Huntsman can fly?
Maybe. I don't know.
So, while we're speculating, you should speculate to me, what's Snow White and the Huntsman about? Because this is... What Can You Remember?
All right. Snow White and the Huntsman is about... Snow White and the Huntsman is a marriage of the Snow White film from Disney with the 7 Dwarves and Little Red Riding Hood. So, here's what I think happens. Snow White is actually Little Red Riding Hood, but she lives in the forest with some dwarves. And the Huntsman is the hunter from Little Red Riding Hood, and he actually works for the witch wolf lady, because I'm going to combine them. It's a witch who's also a wolf, or can turn into a wolf.
Lady.
And then yes, exactly. And partway through the movie, the Huntsman is like, you know what? I don't like this witch wolf lady. And so he goes to warn Snow White and her dwarves, or dwarf friends. I guess they're not her dwarves, they're like her roommates. Her roommates about this incoming witch wolf attack. And so then Snow White decides she's going to put on a Red Riding Hood and go confront the witch wolf lady herself. That's what happens in this movie. Now that I've told you exactly, moment for moment, what happens throughout the entirety of Snow White and the Huntsman, can you please explain to me what happens in Mirror Mirror?
What I know about Mirror Mirror is, much like Snow White and the Huntsman, Disney is not involved at all, because you gotta love it, Snow White is public domain. So for Mirror Mirror, which I know has Julia Roberts as the evil queen, it's pretty much the standard story. Like, there's not a whole lot of embellishments here, there's no crazy crossovers. I think it's just her trying to kill little poor Snow White. And it's directed by Tarsem who also did some crazy-ass movies in the 2000s. He's responsible for The Cell and Immortals and some weird stuff. So, there is going to be some martial arts element to this movie, be it from the Huntsman or from the Dwarves. They're going to defend her with some kind of martial art, and it's going to be visually crazy.
So there's a Huntsman in Mirror Mirror, you say?
I'm assuming it's going to be like a copy-paste story element thing, because there has to be a Huntsman involved, right? Unless, of course, it's one of those empowering type of movies where Snow White defends herself the entire time.
Wait, are you saying there's a Huntsman in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
Yeah?
I don't remember that at all.
Who do you think cuts out the deer's heart and puts it in the box?
There's what are you
Like, yeah, the evil queen tells the huntsman to kill her.
I don't remember anything about a deer's heart.
What? He's hunting?
I remember a poisoned apple. That's what I remember happening.
Oh man, so we're trying to remember what happened in the regular story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Hi-ho, man.
Yeah,
off to work we go.
We're just going off the Disney one. Yeah, evil queen tells the huntsman to kill Snow White and bring her Snow White's heart. But just seeing how good Snow White is, the huntsman kills a deer instead and puts that heart in a box, which he delivers to the evil queen.
And that's how we first got Jägermeister.
Yes, that is the story of Jägermeister. I'm glad you gathered something from this tale.
You know what? I have a good brain. The best of brains. I also have the best words.
Yes, you inherited that from Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
I feel like I insulted Mom, sorry.
I mean, depending on... I don't remember which one of us got the better SAT scores, so I'm just going to say maybe it wasn't an insult.
I know there was at least a 5 in there.
We got at least a 5 on the SAT.
Well, no, there was number 5 in there. I don't know how many digits it was.
It was 5 digits. The highest score that SAT has ever seen.
It's like, how is that even possible? I wrote 2 names.
I did the
Because you get 500 points for writing your name. I wrote it 2 names.
It's only going to get you to 1,000.
And then, you know, the 600 carried me over. Or so. I don't know.
Moving out of the realm of math that clearly we're not doing so well on.
We got 2 movies that are probably going to be fairly similar. I think there might be a little more medieval Lord of the Rings type battling in Snow White and the Huntsman, but I am not sure. All I know about Snow White and the Huntsman, honestly, is it got a sequel.
Oh, it did get a sequel. You know what I know about Mirror Mirror? I now know Julia Roberts is in it. So we're learning something every time.
Unless I'm wrong about Julia Roberts, in which case...
I think that really wraps it up for Block 1. So I think, guys, we're just going to have to see you in about 3.5 hours.
Wait, 3.5? I thought it was 4 hours or 4.5. Are we adjusting our timetable for Season 2?
I honestly just am bad with numbers today.
It's clear. We've noticed.
All right, well, we'll be back.
For this week's movies, you can find Mirror Mirror streaming on Netflix.
And you can find Snow White and the Huntsman on HBO Max. The best HBO.
I agree.
I love coffee. Do you love coffee? I love coffee too. You know what else coffee can do? It can help us keep this podcast going. So if you go to coffee.com/twinemacinema, ko-fi.com/twinemacinema, you can give us coffee or money coffee or coffee money. Oh man, we should pay with beans. Anyway, coffee.com/twinemacinema. Help us out. Thanks. Bye.
My queen.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Snow White.
What? Snow White. Consume her heart, and you shall rule forever.
Is it done? Find me someone who doesn't fear the dark forest to hunt her down.
This queen radiates crazy.
Oh, you're no fun.
Who are you? Why the queen wants you dead?
You should know you're the one hunting me.
Can we help her?
She's doing pretty good on her own.
If you weren't trying to stab me right now, I'd be tempted to kiss you.
You have eyes, Huntsman, but you do not see.
I think Snow White is the most beautiful woman in the whole world.
Agreed to disagree.
She is destined to end the darkness.
I need your help to defeat the queen.
I've seen what she sees. I can kill her.
I read so many stories where the prince saves the princess. It's time we change that ending.
I definitely have a happily ever after thing going on. Lips red as blood, hair black as night. Bring me your heart, my dear Snow White.
Blah, blah, blah. Her hair is not black, it's raven, and she's 18 years old, and her skin has never seen the sun, so of course it's good.
Well, that was quite an adventure.
Yes, it was quite the magical journey, wasn't it, Joey?
Indeed, Max. I haven't been in a fantasy world for that long in a little while. Not since I last rewatched Lord of the Rings.
And I'm about to rewatch the Hobbit trilogy, so we'll see if this affects my enjoyment of that more than my enjoyment of those movies already.
You like the Hobbit trilogy?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you could sense it, but I was being slightly facetious, but I owe them a second viewing, as it has been almost a decade.
I could not tell the facetiousness, so I'm glad to hear that on one level.
I need to crank that filter up then.
It means that our tastes are still similar, but please let me know how much they still suck. That would be great.
I know we already have separate views on the nature of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, being that I prefer the extended versions and you do not.
Oh, I'll never watch them.
Wait, so you haven't even seen them?
Nope, never gonna happen.
Oh, come on, man. You at least owe it a watch.
No, I don't. And that's where we stand on that one, so deal with it.
I think that is just outrageous. But we're not watching Lord of the Rings today. We're talking about some Snow White.
Indeed.
And some crazy queens.
And some princes, and like a duke's son, and some huntsmen, and some dwarves.
Although technically we're talking only one huntsman.
Oh, yes, true. But we'll get to that later in the differences section.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just generally, I think I enjoyed these movies.
Yeah, overall, I would definitely watch either one of them a second time. That's where they landed for me. I didn't love either of them, but I definitely enjoyed them enough that I would watch them again.
Yeah, they're a fun time, I'd say. But yeah, why don't we dig into some similarities here?
All right, sounds good to me, Max. So you've got your list up in front of you, so let's start it off with what you got.
All right, but before I dig in entirely, I do want to preface it with just a little summary, as they are adapting a well-known story from our childhoods. It's a grim fairy tale, as Snow White, she's a princess. You got an evil queen, jealous of her stepdaughter, and kind of banishes her as a scullery maid before decides, when she comes of age, to just kill her.
Yeah, that's a confusing plot point for me, because it's just like, why don't you just kill her? So why? But both movies, and apparently the Grimm fairy tale, decide, you know what, we should just leave her alive as a liability for 10 years and then freak out about it later. It just doesn't make sense, but it is what happens, and so I'm moving on.
Yeah, apparently the witch did not think that a princess with the purest skin imaginable would ever become more beautiful than her. Go figure.
Well, maybe they just don't want to kill children, so they gotta wait for the child to grow up so that they could kill him with like a cleaner conscience. I'm not sure.
I know, it's funny you mention that, because in the Grimm fairy tale version, she's 7 when she escapes the castle and ends up living with the dwarves she discovers in the woods for 10 years before she's of age.
See, that makes way more sense, because she escapes way earlier in that story. Like, that makes more... Why didn't they tell that story? Why doesn't she escape when she's a kid, and then we have 10 years of her growing up with the dwarves, and then we have... I want to see that movie. That's the movie I want to see.
Because that'd be creepy.
No, it wouldn't. Not if they're just being parental figures. She's just living in a house with a bunch of dudes who, like, take care of her and care about her, like 7 dads.
I'll tell you this, children are not relatable.
Okay, fine. Moving on past the initial problems I have with that whole premise. Max, continue the story of the Grimm fairy tale.
Yes, okay, so Snow meets dwarves, meets princes, and witch decides to kill her again, consulting a magic mirror at certain points to do so. Disguises herself as an old woman, tries to kill her with a poison apple, succeeds, but, true love's first kiss kind of thing. And, Prince kind of does some weird, questionable stuff, kissing a dead person. Ultimately, Snow White is made a queen in one way or another via marrying the prince and vanquishing the evil queen. So, yeah, happy ending all around.
Happy endings indeed. Yeah, neither film really deviates too much from that, but there are differences among the films. And so, yeah, let's just go into what we have similar to each other besides just that overall story.
Well, right off the bat, we have the first thing we see, title of the movie, followed by some expository voice over by characters with questionable accents from time to time in the film. Mirror, mirror, Julia Roberts adding a little bit of aristocracy to her voiceover. And then we have Chris Hemsworth, Australian by nature, doing a Scottish accent, which, more convincing than Julia Roberts, I'll say.
Not only that, in the beginning of the film, we have a prologue in each film that kind of covers the basis of the beginning part of the Snow White story. And each of those prologues goes all the way up until their father marries the witch, the evil stepmother, the queen, kind of all of the above, and then eventually decides to betray him and kills the father. And then we jump ahead at that point to the future, which is where the most of our movies take place.
In the future. Although, we already have the makings of a Christopher Nolan movie, because there are dead moms everywhere.
Lots of dead moms.
We also have our fair princess being kept against her will by a cage in Snow White and the Huntsman, or just a general don't ever leave your room type situation in Mirror, Mirror.
Yeah, one's a little more psychological, one's more physical, both dangerous and awful, and also illogical on the part of the queens, which I already said. But moving past that again, each of them finds themselves in a position where they decide that they need to escape.
Mm-hmm. And then the queen, generally being unstable, trying to maintain their youth, undergoes crazy spa treatments. We got Julia Roberts being covered in bird dung and all kinds of critters that supposedly make her skin appealing. And then we got a creepy milk bath for Charlize Theron.
Well, I think the minnows really do work. They just eat the shit off of your fingers. It's cute and ticklish, and it's a real thing, and I like it.
We also have Snow White characteristically being friendly to animals, and animals are generally friendly in return.
I have a dispute of this one, because I don't think that happens in Mirror, Mirror. I don't remember it happening.
Well, she's friendly to the animals anyway.
She eats animals.
When does she eat animals?
I just assume because she doesn't say she's vegan.
Most of characters in all of cinema never say they're vegan.
Yeah, because most of characters in all of cinema aren't.
To be fair, if they were vegan, they would absolutely tell everyone in the movie.
But I think that's more of a difference, honestly, because I don't remember her interacting with animals in Mirror, Mirror, like, at all. Where it's a major...
I mean, she feeds that apple seed to the bird in the beginning.
She gives an apple seed to a bird?
Yeah, first thing we see of her.
Well, was she a child at the time?
Nope, she was full Lily Collins' age.
Well, I don't remember it.
Well then, we're moving on.
It's clearly not important enough, whereas it's very important in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh yeah, she has a whole one with nature thing going on. Actually, they definitely ripped off Princess Mononoke a little bit, as she...
Oh, a little bit?
Yeah.
God, the moment that this large, beautiful deer, god of the forest, with giant antlers walked out, I was like, well, we know what they watched right before this. Immediately, Princess Mononoke. And then, also, spoiler alert, guys, he gets shot. Exactly like Princess Mononoke. It's the same exact series of events.
But also hiding in the forest, we got dwarves. And we got a dwarf that hits on Snow White in each movie.
Yes. I don't remember which one I find that weirder in. I think I like it in Mirror, Mirror a little more because it seems a little less, or a little more innocent, where it seems a little bit creepier in Snow White and the Huntsman.
And then on the other side of things, we got costume nominations at the Oscars for both of these movies, as the costumes pretty damn good.
Yeah, they're both period films in that way. Mirror, Mirror being a little bit more fantastical, a little more like fantasy, whereas Snow White and the Huntsman's a little more real, if you can even say that, considering all of the shit that happens in both of these movies.
It's grounded.
Yeah, it's a little more grounded in the functioning of a society, but both of them, they definitely have some amazing costumes, and I think For me, Mirror Mirror probably takes the cake on that because of the fantasy elements, especially when they do multiple balls. So you've got these multiple very fancy costumes that the nobles are walking around in. And who doesn't love looking at that? Like, it's just, they get to take a huge swing and do whatever they want. Having Nathan Lane as a cockroach, actually dressed as a cockroach, is just an amazing moment because he gets turned into a cockroach later in the movie. Good foreshadowing. We love it.
And then just a side note, both movies end with a pop song.
Yeah.
But mostly because this is a direct adaptation of a fairy tale, we wanted to move on to something called Head to Head, where we got specific characters that are pretty much existing in both versions of the story, and we're just kind of comparing the two. First off, you got Snow White, the titular character. So we got Snow's White. We got Lily Collins playing Snow White in Mirror Mirror, although they kind of go head-to-head with Julia Roberts, as she has a little more, shall we say, caliber in Hollywood. So she's the first billed person before Snow White in their own movie. But it's Snow White. You know she's the protagonist. And Kristen Stewart is playing Snow White in more of a epic fashion. She's definitely kind of a grungy fantasy heroine in this case.
Yeah, it's much more of like a Joan of Arc style story than it is your stereotypical damsel in distress story. But Mirror Mirror does eventually turn that on its head, but throughout the film, it does seem that we're going more of that Joan of Arc style in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yes, both Snow's White get combat skills or enhance their combat skills over the course of the film. But yeah, kind of the biggest difference between the two movies is kind of how they use the Queen. Julia Roberts playing the Queen in Mirror Mirror, it goes like she's just kind of a vain queen. She's using magic for her own benefit, and there's nothing really beyond that. So it's kind of a shallow interpretation, but not super shallow, where it's definitely a little more politically motivated for Charlize Theron in Snow White and the Huntsman, as she's definitely using her magic to pretty much punish men, honestly.
I could see that. I didn't think of it quite that way for me as much, but I could definitely see that. With the Queens, one of the big differences, also, it just kind of comes from the tone that the movies take overall, is that Charlize Theron's Queen is much more grounded in it feels just a little bit more gritty, right? It feels like she just really has it out for people in this world, and that she is actually evil, that she is seeking out what she does in order to destroy people. Although she's doing it, to keep her youth, to keep her alive, to keep her going, to keep her power. But she is just taking people, taking them down for that reason and solely that reason, which is her main motivation. Where Julia Roberts is doing a similar thing. She doesn't really care about anyone else, but she seems less murderous in her quest to do so. Just significantly lower body count. But also, she doesn't seem quite as evil for that reason, but also just the way that she's portrayed. She's a lot lighter, a lot more fun. She makes jokes. Like, her character and just the way that the story is told, that's a much more comedic film, and Snow White and the Huntsman is a much darker film. And so you can easily see that in all of the characters throughout, but most specifically, you can see that difference in the Queens.
And then it's just kind of how they get their hands dirty as well. Charlize Theron, Ravenna, in Snow White and the Huntsman, physically does the magic to people. Where we have Julia Roberts asking her magic mirror to do most of the dirty work, and her magic mirror is very sassy. In fact, the magic mirror is another contention between these two films, as Magic Mirror has the magic mirror personified. There's a reflection of Julia Roberts in there that she talks to, and it's definitely more of a cautionary tale type thing, because it tells her, hey, there's a cost to doing this magic, don't keep doing it, otherwise you'll be sorry. Where yeah, it's basically a giant, oh god, I want to say it looks like a giant golden walk to me, honestly. In Snow White and the Huntsman, it doesn't really reflect that much, but you got this creepy ooze coming out. It's personified by a ring wraith type of dude. And yeah, kind of does the witch's bidding for the most part.
Yeah, in Snow White and the Huntsman, you are correct. Ravenna definitely gets her hands dirty and actually does all of the action. The power is given to her to do these things. I think in the same way that they interact with the mirror, you can kind of see how they interact with the rest of the world. Is, like you said, Julia Roberts has the magic mirror do the bidding. And with Ravenna and the mirror, it's more like she's talking to herself in so many ways than it is that she's actually talking to someone else. The mirror kind of tells her what she needs to hear and wants to hear, but it doesn't like have any opposing point of view that she's interacting with. So it's almost unnecessary in Snow White and the Huntsman, other than the fact that it's part of the story of Snow White.
At least it can tell her what she wants to know, but that is kind of the function of it. It's not a mirror, it's just an Ask Jeeves.
That's a good way to put it. But I do think that the mirror in Snow White and the Huntsman is more visually interesting. Honestly, I just think it looks cooler, for sure. But I like how they do it in Mirror Mirror, that she like actually walks through the mirror and goes to a separate world to talk to her mirror self. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's different at least. It's a sassy mirror.
Very fun. It's a mirror a la Shrek.
Mm-hmm. Although, yeah, 9-10 years or so after Shrek. But speaking of other servants of the Queen, the Huntsman character is actually a pivotal difference between the two adaptations. Obviously, the Huntsman is a character in Snow White and the Huntsman, Chris Hemsworth playing that guy, and he gets a sizable role with that as well as the servant who's supposed to go out and, kill Snow White and deliver her heart. Nathan Lane actually fills that position in Mirror Mirror. He's, quote-unquote, the royal bootlicker. And he has to take Snow White out and kill her and bring back, the blood and guts and stuff. And, he wusses out, so he kind of just brings back some sausage links and other assorted butcher items, and Julia Roberts just kind of buys it.
She buys it just enough because he's never let her down in the past, so she just assumes that he's being truthful. But also, it's just, I think she just doesn't care. It's like out of sight, out of mind. She's gone. He came back without her. He must have killed her. That's the obvious answer here. And, if you trust your employees, it makes sense that would be the obvious choice.
Chris Hemsworth, obviously a reluctant servant, as he's pretty much pulled in from the bar and said, hey, go do this, and I'll bring your dead wife back to life. And it kind of sounds like he doesn't actually buy that for a second, so why he does it, I don't know. Maybe because they'll kill him on the spot, but,
Yeah, that selling point is like, they didn't sell it hard enough, right? Because when he turns to help them, I don't quite believe it. But then through the dialogue and other things, he believes it clearly. So we never really get to believe it ourselves as the audience, but this character supposedly believes it. And then when he finds out that they can't bring her back, then he's like, "Oh, you've betrayed me!" And then he helps Snow White. It's pretty stupid. That's a part of the movie that I was just disappointed in, because they could have gotten here a different way. They could have literally just threatened to kill him. They could have actually been able to bring his wife back. They could have done it in so many different ways. I just wasn't happy with the storytelling on that part.
We also have various royal dudes in the stories. We have the Duke's son in Snow White and the Huntsman, played by Sam Claflin, William. He's kind of the co-romantic interest, although neither really is that super romantic. In fact, the most romantic William is in the movie is when Charlize Theron is impersonating him and gets her to eat a poisoned sea urchin or something like that. It looks like an apple at the time. And then we have Armie Hammer playing a actual prince with his manservant, wandering through the woods in search of adventure, and eventually crosses Snow White's path. And of course, they go gaga.
That's a question I got. In the original Grimm fairy tale, is there a prince?
There is a prince, however, he appears super late in the story after the dwarves have displayed the dead body of Snow White in a glass coffin.
Okay, so the prince just kind of shows up at the end and, saves the day in the Grimm fairy tale?
Yep.
Okay, so I am glad that they didn't do that in either of these stories. That would have been so frustrating seeing that happen on screen, because At least these characters have a lot more depth to them. Excellent choices, filmmakers.
Yeah, on that count too, we have some wonderful shoes on the other feet situations. Mirror, mirror, you actually have Snow White magically curing an incapacitated prince instead of the other way around.
Yeah, that was a really fun moment, and I really liked how it unfolded because that's not their first thought. Their first thought isn't, let's kiss this guy. I bet true love's first kiss works. They try a whole bunch of stupid stuff to see if it'll snap him out of this spell, and then eventually, oh yeah, maybe I've heard this could work. I like the tongue-in-cheek nature. I like how that plays out. It's a lot of fun. Also, the dwarves in Mirror Mirror, I just think are so much more interesting. I think their characterization is so much deeper, it's so much more fun, and we spend more time with them too.
Yeah, and that's the final head-to-head item I wanted to mention, the dwarves. And yes, Mirror Mirror is a huge difference, mostly because they have actual performers of little stature playing them. There's no trickery involved there. I was getting huge Time Bandit vibes off of that, and I loved it. And they're notable little people performers. Like, they've been in everything. Like, the guy you just mentioned who knew about the spell was in Bruges.
Excellent. I can't recall the names of these actors, unfortunately.
Napoleon, I think, was the character.
Yes, but I've seen them in a number of things. One of the gentlemen, his name in the show is in the movie is Butcher, and he's in all of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. And so just seeing him right off the bat, I was very pleased. He's also got like a pirate-esque hat in the movie, so that was a nice connection for me. But yes, having these performers who are actually dwarves themselves performing, it was pretty awesome. I was just like, especially because you could easily do that. Mirror Mirror proves that it can be done, and then in Snow White and the Huntsman, they did cast a number of actors who I recognized from other things. Actually from a number of fantasy films, one of them being of the Harry Potter franchise. And so it's a difference that is frustrating. It's a difference that is just so obvious, but not only that, I just think Mirror Mirror did so much of a better job using that cast. It was just, those characters are a lot more interesting, and they're all a lot more individualized. They each have more of an arc and more of a story to themselves, where I couldn't really tell you much of a difference between the dwarves in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah, normally you're just looking at the faces, which is kind of the cheat of it all anyway, because they clearly have dwarven performers, and they have CG'd the famous faces on top of them, or had the actors do Lord of the Ring type tricks to make them seem like small people. But yeah, like, they have, well, let's be honest, they all have ridiculous names for the most part that don't really help, but at least the names in Mirror Mirror actually correlate to their personalities.
So, I actually said dwarf there, and I'm not 100% sure if that is the correct term. I've in my mind, I remember Peter Dinklage referring to himself as a dwarf, but I'm like now 99% sure that's just from a scene in Game of Thrones where he's referring to himself as such. So I don't know what the preferred terminology is. I didn't think about that before this episode, but I think you looked into that a little bit, Max?
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit, and I think little person is the most preferred. Dwarf is kind of in the middle, and then there's some other stuff that's right out. Obviously, we could be wrong. Someone please correct us, but time has gone on, and you just have to be a little more sensitive with that type of thing.
Yeah, once we've learned more, you can't go back. It's just, if you go back, you're being intentionally ignorant. Moving on from the characters of the dwarves, we are going to get into our differences segment right now. And we've already kind of gone over a number of differences when talking about these characters head to head, but I think I just want to make mention of this right off the bat here. It's a huge difference, and I kind of have alluded to it a little bit, is it's just the tone of these movies is so dramatically different. One of them is much more a comedy, much more of this tongue-in-cheek and kind of like, in some ways, meta, but not quite actually meta, and that's Mirror Mirror. It's just having a lot more fun with it. There's a lot more jokes, there's a lot more comedy, it's more brightly lit, the art design and the production design is all a little more vibrant in color, and I also, instead, they use Actually, this is another big difference, is in both of the movies, they showcase the cities around them as being dilapidated and being run down and being broken once the queens take over. In Mirror, Mirror, they showcase this using snow, and in Snow White and the Huntsman, they show this using rotten decay and blackness. And so in Snow White, what's that?
Oh, I was going to say, and mud. It's a very muddy film.
Exactly. And then the color palette and then the way that everything's lit and everything's shot in Snow White and the Huntsman is just that much more dark. And that's the tone of the film as well. There's a hell of a lot more death in Snow White and the Huntsman. There's a lot more blood. There's a lot more violence. It's just, we have two completely different movies, but trying to tell the same kind of story.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I would go one step further and say these movies are in different genres.
Yes, I would 100% agree. That's awesome.
Fantasy is a large umbrella, but I would say Snow White and the Huntsman is definitely a fantasy epic. There's magic involved, but it is a battle film for the most part. That just happens to have, fantasy elements, where Mirror, Mirror is a fairy tale. It's light. It's a little more family friendly. And there's a lot more fun, we'll say.
What's funny about that too, though, is that in Mirror, Mirror, although it is more light in that kind of same way, it also has a lot more sexual innuendo. So there's these jokes and other elements that come into that are definitely not in play in Snow White and the Huntsman. So it's just, I think that's at odds with itself in a way, and it really works. I think it makes those jokes work better, kind of like a la a Muppet movie or Shrek or some other animated films. It's like those jokes can just skate past because the visuals and other things are just so fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, it actually has decently written scenes as well. Like Snow White and the Huntsman, the swords do the talking most of the time.
This is true. There is a lot more dialogue in Mirror, Mirror, where there's just a lot more action and movement and walking in Snow White and the Huntsman. I think most of the dialogue outside of Ravenna is done by our sage dwarf character, who is he's blind, but he speaks. He's just a man who's wise, and he kind of fills in a lot of the gaps in terms of explaining things.
Yes, I think, well, I forget his name offhand, but he was Exposition-y, the dwarf. And played by the late, great Bob Hoskins, his last role.
That was Bob Hoskins?
Yes.
Nah, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize him at all. I mean, I guess when I think about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's much, much older than the roles I remember him in, but still, you think I would have recognized him. Way to go, Bob.
Well, I mean, he was blind, you were blind.
Okay, fine.
Both of these movies are gorgeous to look at because the production design is top-notch. However, Mirror, Mirror, I particularly loved because it is directed by a guy named Tarsem, who is known for his outlandish production design and just crazy plot elements. In this case, I loved it because it looked like a Broadway show filmed on a soundstage for like a theatrical version. It reminds me of a version of Jesus Christ Superstar that I saw in high school, and they look like big indoor sets, especially the forest stuff, and it looked kind of fake, but I loved it.
That's the thing that you do notice immediately when you're in the forest. But what's weird about it is I'm pretty sure they're actual trees. So it's shot in a way that it makes it look like that. And it might partially be on soundstage for some of it, or they just brought in actual trees and put them on a soundstage. It's been done before. You can see it in Hocus Pocus, which is one of my favorite moments of that. But it's easy to bring in a fake or a real tree onto a soundstage. Not as difficult as you'd think. Difficult to keep it alive, of course. But that visual style is definitely throughout the entire movie. I think one of the things that also was just very enjoyable in that forest setting is the fact that we actually see the dwarves' home. That's a thing that is prominent in like the Disney Snow White version, and it's prominent in Mirror, Mirror. It's not there at all in Snow White and the Huntsman, and that was kind of disappointing. I assumed that they were going to take them and let them rest at their house, but we just never got there.
They're like a roving band of thieves at that point in Snow White and the Huntsman, and only after they meet Snow White and the Huntsman do they gain a deeper purpose.
Another thing, I just gotta say this before I forget it, is there's just a really cool standout fight sequence, which I just think is so unique and I hadn't seen that before, and it's where there are these marionette puppets that the evil queen inside the mirror is using to fight the dwarves and to fight Snow White in Mirror Mirror. It works so well. It's just, I feel like he imagined that fight scene and that's how he pitched the movie, because it's so unique and so interesting, and the way that they defeat them is by cutting the physical marionette strings, causing the puppets to fall to the ground. It's so cool and so fairy tale. Like, the only way this works is in a fantasy movie. You can't make that work any other way.
You also have the dwarves in Mirror Mirror doing most of their thieving while wearing giant stilts. And it's just kind of crazy choreography. They're hopping and jumping everywhere as they rob the prince and his manservants in the beginning of the film. And it is so kind of cool because they're looking imposing while they're doing it. Because obviously, if you have a bunch of dwarves robbing a prince, you have to trick them a little bit.
Well, also, it makes it very hard for you to ever be caught or recognized, right? If you're walking around in your normal day-to-day life under 4 feet tall, it's going to be pretty hard to assume that it's the same person who was 8 feet tall and kicked your ass. Like, your brain is just not going to make that connection.
Yeah, the dwarves in Snow White and the Huntsman, not exactly great at combat. They have their own little routine that they do. However, they did do something that I did respect, and they actually killed off one of the dwarves.
Yeah, which is actually, I like how that happened. He sacrificed himself to save Snow White. He really became endeared to us as the audience very quickly. But what I counted them. When the dwarves first appear, I was like, there's 8. There's not usually 8 dwarves, are there?
Wait, there was an extra?
Yep, there's 8.
I lost count, apparently.
He dies, and then we get our 7 dwarves. So when I realized that there was 8, I had to just count them mentally. I'm like, am I sure? Am I miscounting? No, there's 8. So then when he dies, I was like, oh, well, okay. That's why we have 8.
Oh, man. Oh, now I thought there was just 6 for the rest of the movie. I take off a half a point there.
Yeah, right? If it dropped to 6, it would be... it wouldn't have been quite as expected, although still unexpected, especially because you really grow to like that guy very quickly.
Being that he's kind of the dopey one who's hitting on Snow White.
Yeah, and man, I'm just sad that he died. It was very sad. Took an arrow right to the back.
It should also be noted that there is no exact correlation between various dwarves in the film that go back to the Disney version, because the Disney version made all those up. There was no specific trait-bearing dwarves in the original story, so that was just kind of Walt Disney's family-friendly way of differentiating the dwarves. That's
good to know. Good to know that that's not in the original story, so that deviation doesn't matter. But they did do a pretty fun homage to that in Mirror Mirror, having one of the characters be named Chuck, as in Chuckles. You know, because that's him. And then also one of the dwarves was named Grim. And I didn't figure that out until obviously at the end of the movie when I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. They named him Grim because of the Grimm fairy tales. And I just felt like shame in myself.
Although Butcher was pretty grumpy.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a half-wit one also hitting on Snow White and Mirror Mirror. Kind of whoever hit on Snow White was the dopey corollary.
He definitely makes those eyes at her.
Although there's definitely like a gloss over his eyes, because he's also a drunk.
I forgot about, there's just so much more backstory in Mirror Mirror for these characters, and it makes me happy. He even goes to the pub at one point in the movie, and then comes back with some hot gauze. Which ends up being like an important plot point if he doesn't go to the pub. The fact that he went to the pub is the only reason they know that they have to go save the prince. That's why we need everyone to wear their masks and be careful so that we could go out to the pub and solve life's problems.
I know. We need to get back to the bars so we can find out the exposition to life. We need to know where we're going by getting drunk.
How are we supposed to find our purpose in life if we can't get shit-faced with each other at the bar? I just don't understand.
Wait, Joey, do you hear that? I hear the sound of money being rubbed together, so you know what time it is.
History, facts, and box office!
So, Joey, just looking at these movies and the extraordinary design and lots of CG at work, which one do you think had the bigger budget?
I didn't think about this beforehand. I'm going to go ahead and assume it's Snow White and the Huntsman, but there's a lot of really cool visual effects in Mirror Mirror. But I'm going to stick with that. Snow White and the Huntsman is my guess.
You are absolutely correct. And how much do you think it cost? Because, oh, the lolly, is it crazy?
$130 million.
170.
God. Wow. Okay. I mean, it looks great, but I wasn't expecting it. Like 170, that's a pretty big gamble on this story.
I know, right? And it was about 85 reportedly for Mirror Mirror, although Relativity, notorious with their accounting in Hollywood, it's probably closer to 100 million on that one, because yeah, notoriously Relativity went down in flames after it went bankrupt.
Gotcha. So but still, either way, almost half the budget.
However, even though Snow White and the Huntsman did cost a crazy amount for Lord of the Rings level visual effects at that point, it actually made a crap ton of money.
Oh, all right. So, based on what you just said, I'm assuming Snow White and the Huntsman had the higher box office.
It did. It made about 155 million domestically, 241 internationally, for almost $400 million worldwide.
Oh, dang. Well, what's Mirror Mirror at?
Mirror Mirror only made 64 million domestically, 118 internationally, for about 183 million altogether. So both movies made a profit, but yeah. One definitely made its money back and earned that sequel.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really surprise me which one of the movies made more money because of the sequel, but also because of just which one I actually knew more about, just in terms of generally hearing in the reference of pop culture. Mirror Mirror, I kind of even forgot was made. Right? So it makes sense that one of them made $400 million at the box office and the other one shy of 200. And so with that box office, that doesn't necessarily mean that the critical reception is the same. So where are we talking about with how critics felt about these movies?
These movies are extraordinarily close.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. So, Mirror Mirror on Rotten Tomatoes, rocking a solid 50%.
Okay, 50.
That's critically, audience 44%. Metacritic has it at 46 out of 100. Users have it at 5.3 out of 10. And you got Snow White and the Huntsman sitting at 49% critically on Rotten Tomatoes, 52% audience. Metacritic, 57 out of 100, and 6.1. So, it's kind of weird. You got Metacritic saying that Snow White and the Huntsman is more liked, but Rotten Tomatoes is telling me that Mirror Mirror is slightly better. But again, they're both kind of just in the middle of everything, not universally loved.
That's so funny. They're like exactly in the middle. Snow White and the Huntsman getting up to 60% on Metacritic, but every other signifier keeps them pretty much right there at give or take 50%. They are so close. That does surprise me. I guess it surprises me that they're that close to each other, but it also surprises me that they're both at 50%. I figured, based on my experience watching the movies, that they would be, closer to like 60% or better. That's like, they're not bad movies, but of course, when it comes to like Rotten Tomatoes and other things, the percentage doesn't necessarily correlate to how you would actually rate them if you were giving them a high school grade.
Exactly. And even the audience one, you can't trust it either. It's just the aggregate sites you can't trust, so you just have to read between the lines.
Yeah, and you have to make your assumptions based on how that site grades things. So you got to always factor that in. It's just because it's 50% on Rotten Tomatoes doesn't mean that it's a failing grade.
My big telltale sign on Rotten Tomatoes in particular is you have to look at how many reviews were submitted for the movie. The more reviews submitted, the more trustworthy I think the rating is, because then you have an actual consensus. But if you look back at an older movie and there's only 10 reviews available that they've inputted, it's going to be seriously off.
With all of that information, I gotta ask, were the studios competing with each other here? Was there any kind of production competition? Or did they just happen to, like, come out at the same time because they're like, you know, Snow White sounds like a good story. This is the year we tell that story.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's one movie to blame for both of these movies existing, and I want to see if you can guess and tell me what it is.
Maleficent?
No, that came out after this. Maleficent is there because of Snow White and the Huntsman, because they have the same producer.
Well, damn it. Okay, let me try one more swing. What year did these movies come out again, Max?
This was the good old days of 2012. I'll give you a hint. It came out 2 years before this.
Okay, so in 2010, what movie caused these movies to exist? Cinderella.
No, that came out in 2015.
God damn it. Just tell me, Max. Tell me the answer.
It was Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
Ah, that movie made so much freaking money.
And that is the reason that they picked up Evan Doherty's Blacklist script for Snow White and the Huntsman. Apparently he wrote it in film school in 2003 and had just been sitting there because no one had done fairy tales correctly in a while. So they greenlit that, especially after Rupert Sanders, the director, wowed them with his passion. Although his passion kind of got him in trouble, as he had an affair with Kristen Stewart that broke up both of their marriages.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. Man, that's so crazy. I forgot that was a whole running thing around that movie. You passionate devil.
I don't know if that's why she got cast, but it definitely happened during production. In fact, the director's wife plays Snow White's mother at the very beginning of the movie.
God damn. Man.
Which is kind of funny. But, okay, so, Universal greenlit Snow White and the Huntsman first. However, Mirror Mirror went into production first. In fact, Lily Collins tried out for Kristen Stewart's part before she was ultimately rejected, and then got the part for Mirror Mirror.
Oh, well, that's awesome, because I think that both of them did a pretty good job in each of the movies. I just think that if I was gonna play one of the Snow Whites, if given the choice, I think the Lily Collins one, I think Mirror Mirror would have been a little bit more fun. You know? I think going through all that torture and grief in Snow White and the Huntsman just doesn't sound as enjoyable to me as living out this weird fantasy film.
And as I mentioned before, Mirror Mirror filmed mostly in sound stages in Canada. They got off the ground in June of 2011 through September of 2011. And then you got Snow White and the Huntsman filming on location in July of 2011 to December of 2011. So pretty much filming at the same time, different places, not a lot of conflict. Except for, internally.
Yes, of course. So just to clarify, was Mirror Mirror greenlit because Snow White and the Huntsman was greenlit, or was it just two separate things?
I couldn't find anything definitive on that, but I would say yes. It's a domain-free character from a fairy tale, and it's going to make a little money because Alice in Wonderland just made a shitload of money as a fantasy film. And yeah, they probably heard Universal had picked that up, and that's how they got going.
Well, not as exciting as I would hope in terms of the competition, but that's okay. Especially considering that the two movies are so dramatically different from each other. I think it kind of just works out. They're definitely hitting two different demos, I think.
All right, so with all of that said, we've been talking and jawing our little lungs out for the past couple hours or so, or however long this podcast actually turns out to be. So the real question is...
Winner, winner, who's the winner?
So Joey, tell me, which one of these movies did it better?
Mirror Mirror. Mirror Mirror is the movie that if I was going to recommend one of these two, I would recommend Mirror Mirror. Which is not to say that I did not like Snow White and the Huntsman, because I really did. I just think, honestly, I think watching them in the order that I did is the situation. You watch Snow White and the Huntsman, you get all emotional, because I shed a couple tears during that movie. It really did hit me right in the feels. I love that kind of inspirational storytelling, and they rally the troops, and they go take their kingdom back. And then after that, you have a little dinner, and then you watch Mirror Mirror. And you know what? When you're watching Mirror Mirror, You just believe that everything's going to be okay. And I also laughed so much in that movie, and they did so many fun little different things, like the switch of having the prince and the princess, just that flipping that kiss switch. But also in that same moment, to get to that situation, she gave him a puppy love potion so that he acts like a puppy, and it's just such a stupidly perfect joke. I didn't think it was gonna work. I thought it was gonna bother me, and instead, he pulls it off, and it's just so cute.
Joey. 100% agree. Mirror Mirror is the better one.
We did it! We came to a consensus on this one.
Mirror Mirror is just so much more enjoyable. Both of the films kind of relish in muting all of their colors, but as the storyline progresses and you get to know the characters more, all of them become more colorful in their personalities, but also in their costumes. In Mirror Mirror, Tarsem excels at that type of filmmaking, and it is just great to watch. It's visually splendid, and I just couldn't get into Snow White and the Huntsman. It's a cool battle movie, but none of it really sells it to me. In fact, I would go far as to say the Huntsman doesn't even need to be in the movie. They didn't need to give him a huge role. He doesn't even do anything besides add that Taylor Lautner energy of a Twilight three-way relationship.
That's not a bad way to look at it. They could have easily just combined his character with the Duke's son, and just have that all be the same character, and it could have worked just fine. You're right, we don't really need him in there. And some of the story problems come from him being there in the first place, because you have to create this motivation for him, which is just, it's really not well fleshed out. They try to do it a little bit by having Ravenna's brother be the one who killed his wife, but that just seems like some BS. It doesn't even feel real in that moment. It just seems like he's saying that to try and torture the Huntsman. So, oddly enough, for a story that does seem more straightforward than Mirror Mirror, I think the writing is better in Mirror Mirror.
I 100% agree. And moreover, it's definitely the movie that Disney would make if they actually made a live adaptation of Snow White, which they definitely will, but they will not do better than this movie.
That's a pretty solid bet. But we may get hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. And that I would love to have in a live action movie. So I you know what? It's hit or miss with the Disney live action ones for me. I've liked two of them so far. So if they do it again, I might be into it.
Which ones are good?
I like The Jungle Book, and I thought Aladdin was enjoyable.
I enjoyed Jungle Book as well, and I did not hate Mulan. I loved the risk they took by taking out the songs.
You know what? I haven't seen Mulan yet. Partially because of the controversy surrounding it, and partially because I forgot that it came out.
It's on Disney Plus right now. But I don't like that everyone forgets the original remakes they did in the 90s, because I will tell you this, my friend, the Stephen Sommers Jungle Book from 94 still slaps.
Is that a remake, or was that just a separate movie that was about Rudyard Kipling's story?
I mean, it's Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah,
all
but
the characters are in there.
Is it a Disney movie, though?
Yep.
Okay.
Disney made it, and then they did 101 Dalmatians like a couple years later.
Yeah! I actually really enjoy the 101 Dalmatians movie, but I haven't seen that Jungle Book movie in a very long time, so I just don't remember it.
It might still be on HBO. Check that out.
I do have the HBO Max. I can't stop making that joke. I'm sorry, everybody, but it's just it's there and it will be there forever.
Wait, what joke? I don't get it.
It's okay, Max. We can just move past it. It might have gone over your head.
Well, there you have it, folks. Mirror Mirror, the universal winner. And we loved reflecting on it.
Maybe I'll watch Snow White and the Huntsman 2 at some point, and I can give you a small little blurb on that. But yeah, if you're picking between the two, I'd lean towards Mirror Mirror, because it's unique. It does tell the story in a unique and fun way. And if you're gonna watch Snow White and the Huntsman, maybe just watch Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring instead.
Exactly. Although I will mention one thing that infuriated me about Mirror Mirror. The very end, Lily Collin busts out in a Bollywood-style musical number, and I wanted that the whole movie. I didn't know I wanted it, but I wanted a Bollywood version of Snow White, and that would have been great.
You know what? Maybe Tarsum's the right person to make that, because when that happened in the end credits, I was also very pleased. It was an unexpected positive where I was just like, shit, this is great. I like how the movie turned out, but maybe we could see that movie and I would be down. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, guys. Please check us out on our Instagram at Twinema Cinema and on our Twitter at Cinema Twinema.
But also check us out on YouTube, as we now have all of our episodes up there for your ears as well.
The easiest way to find us on YouTube is just by searching Twinema Cinema. We are your top search result, baby.
Yes, we're a very recognizable brand. And, if you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. Tell us you love us. We need that kind of validation in our lives right now.
And if there's some kind of podcast app that you use that we are not on for some reason, please let us know, and we will find a way to get on there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Good night, y'all. I'm so excited. Coming up for our Valentine's Day episode, we're going to be showing a little skin.